Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. This is going to be kind of my first reading back when it comes to my chart breakdowns. I've noticed that a lot of you guys tend to enjoy my chart breakdowns, which I really appreciate that. As I said at the beginning, whenever I was starting doing the chart breakdowns, that this is a learning experience for me as well. Just like anything else that I take on or I decide to do, I am always in that mindset of it's a learning experience. If you can hear the water, I guess maybe that was intentional or it wasn't intentional, but I'm sitting next to my fish tank. So yeah, I probably need to put some more water in there, just a little bit more. It's not too bad. I just redid it like maybe last week before last. But when I hear the water at night, it actually is kind of soothing. And so it's like a lullaby. So maybe that's why also I haven't, filled it up a little bit more than what it needs to be. Maybe that's just me. But yeah, anyway, let's get back on task. So yeah, whenever I started doing this, I already said I made that my full disclaimer at the beginning that, this was a learning experience and it's always going to be a learning experience. But I thoroughly enjoyed looking at charts because of the different elements. There's so many moving parts, the same way it is for me when it pertains to tarot. There's so many different moving parts because there's a story and sometimes there's multiple stories. So I always look at it in everything that I do in spirituality. I always look at it in terms of me reading a book, not reading a script, but me reading a book or writing, let's say writing the book, I guess. But yeah, so this particular video today is going to be on an idea that I came up with during my last live, and this one is going to be regarding Cuba Gooding Jr. Now, why I felt pulled to do Cuba Gooding Jr., I'm not sure, but it doesn't really matter at this point because you guys know I'm probably the most random person in the multiverse, if I want to call it that. But that's just me. I just do whatever the hell I want to do. So continue along the path of just being random. This is what we have. Okay. So this is Cuba Gooding's natal chart that I already have up. Now, I didn't go and try to dig to find his time of birth or anything like that because I really just, I'm just going to say, I really wanted to come into this kind of naked to just see what we're going to come up with. Okay. I mean, of course, we come up with a lot of stuff, but nonetheless. So he was born on January the 2nd, 1968 in the Bronx, New York, which I didn't know. Oh, okay. I just unlocked, I guess, a core memory. The reason why I decided, I think I mentioned this on my live, but the reason why I decided to do Cuba Gooding Jr. is because maybe about a month back, I watched the movie that he did with Robert De Niro, Men of Honor, where he was in the Navy. I think he was one of the first, the movie was about, I think, him being one of the first black men in the Navy SEALs or somebody had to remind me what the name of the dive team is whenever it comes to Navy. But nonetheless, it was a pretty good movie. And of course I cried because I am just a big baby and things like that, because you can just feel the rawness in it. It just really takes me there. So that's why I got inspired to do Cuba Gooding Jr.'s chart. It doesn't really have anything to do with the whole situation when it pertains to him being named in the lawsuit with Little Rod and P. Diddy. Not really. If you guys want me to take a look at that, I can, but that is the reason why I decided to do his chart. Okay, because I felt really inspired by the movie he did. And I think that probably should have been his first Oscar, something, but what can you do? I mean, Jerry Maguire, he really didn't do anything. Not as good as he did in Men of Honor, but that's just my opinion. So with him being born on the 2nd, as you guys, if you don't remember, or it's been a while, I always like to come at this from the eyes of, the day that you were born carries a very, very high vibrational energy to me, as well as your name. Your name is Saturn. As I've said before, Saturn is tied to your destiny. Also, we can look at Saturn in terms of your purpose. So I've always said, I've always been that person since as long as I can remember, where I'm just, names are so important. You have to be strategic, in my opinion, about the names that you choose for yourself in terms of if you want to go by an alias or when it comes to your kids, because that is Saturn. So, that's my spill on it. So we're also going to look at his name, at least just his first initial. Now, I do have it to where we can break down numerology terms in terms of what his numerical value is when it comes to all of his letters added together. We'll probably have to do that later because I'm probably going to combine that with other people because that's not going to take a long time for that video. So we'll have to do that later. But as of right now, we're just going to look at the first initial of his name as well as the day that he was born. But we're going to start on the day that he was born. So again, the number 2 and the number 7 is tied to the energy of the moon. So his moon is going to be our area of focus here as well. Now, again, we're just going to go into this naked and we're just going to take the chart as is. He has moon in Aquarius. Now, the spiel is, since Aquarius is attached to the 11th house, that is where our groups are situated, our older siblings, our elders as well. Our in-laws, I believe, is 11th house or 9th house. I'll have to double check on that. I know it's either one of those. But yeah, also, what else is 11th house? Social media, engineers, believe authorship can be seen, finance, celebrity networks can be 11th house because 11th house sits opposite the 5th house. 5th house, natally speaking, is Leo, and Leo's sister sign. When I say sister sign or when you hear sister sign, we're talking about the exact opposite of your sign. So if you are a Taurus, your sister sign would be Scorpio. If you are a Virgo, your sister sign would be Pisces, and Cancer, Capricorn, vice versa, all the way around the wheel. Okay. So the Leo is the 5th house. Aquarius natally is 11th house. So they're on that axis where it pertains to fame, where it pertains to celebrities. Leo is kings. So you can kind of see how it links up in terms of if you have a 5th and 11th house connection, then you may be a king, or you may run in circles where kings are involved. Now, kings doesn't have to be actual kings. Kings can be someone that may be seen as such, like in your society or in your small town, country, doesn't matter. Diplomats, because the Aquarius is also House of Representatives. So even with that axis, you can see a lot of politicians or people that go into that particular field. They have strong 11th house placements. Okay. Add in 5th house, which brings that popularity. I would say, even though the 10th house is about presidents and public figures, but just me being nosy and taking a look at several different factors, the 11th house definitely plays a very big part of that when it comes to, are you going to shake the table in politics, or are you just going to waste our time? A lot of them waste our time, but but anyway, so I'm going to focus a lot on his moon placement because it is important when it pertains to the day that he was born, his chart, etc. Oh, I hope I'm not talking super loud since I have this mic attached to the very top of my throat, but I probably need to take it down a notch. But anyway, 8 minutes later. So I hope you made it through the first 8 minutes without your ears falling off. Okay. So we're going to take a look at the moon in a second. But to me, especially since we're seeing his moon, and his moon is unaspected. So I would say it's gone rogue. Just like on my Twitter, I talked about a rogue Venus, which Tom Holland has a rogue Venus. So those rogue planets are very obvious, let's say that, to other people or likely to yourself, and you may not even really realize it. And rogueness, and like I said, it's just being identified as, what are you connected to? Nothing at this point. You're just an object in the sky. I mean, I know that sounds crazy, but you can kind of see it like that. Okay. But I actually like rogue Venus, unaspected Venus, because they are such romantics. hopeless romantics, but not the type where they lose their head. They understand love better than anybody. They understand love, it can be a challenge. They also understand love can be beautiful. Love can be brutal. Love doesn't really have any boundaries. So those are the people where they love people where they are at, and which can be a very strong placement. That's why I brought up Tom Holland, because if you listen to the way that Zendaya talks about him or other people talk about him, that is Rogue Venus in the flesh. So we'll talk about that later. But with Cuba's moon being unaspected, we know the moon is tied to emotions, the moon is tied to the womb, the moon is tied to women. So with the moon not making any aspects there, it's we could say, to me, I would say that it probably brings about a lot more darkness than we are willing to attest to, or that we are willing to make note of, or that the person with the unexpected moon are willing to recognize. Because with that unaspected moon, I feel it can take you to a dark place with your emotions, because it's almost like you don't have anything to feed into to kind of like get you out of that dark place. So you kind of have to be that one that has to pull yourself up by the bootstraps. Maybe if it was aspecting to Jupiter, you'd have that part of you where you can see a little bit light at the end of the tunnel. But with the moon not making any aspects, you may have a difficulty seeing that. It may kind of feel like the world is always constantly, it makes me think of claustrophobia for some reason in this case. Because with your moon not having any aspects, there's also that lack of control when it pertains to your emotions. You don't know where to channel it here. You don't know to channel it there. You just don't know. So sometimes this person could possibly eat at themselves, emotionally speaking, especially with him having moon in Aquarius, that detachment on top of that moon. You may have someone where they may go to experience things on a moon level, and they are just so wrong. But in their mind, because moon is the mind, Mercury is the intellect, in their mind, they don't see that they are doing anything wrong, because they're struggling to feel anyway. So their objective is to find ways to help me navigate through these difficult emotions. Like, they don't know how to, they may be somebody where they don't necessarily know how to separate the good and the bad emotions. They're all the same thing. So this can be a dangerous individual, specifically for him, because it's the moon. This could be specifically when it pertains to his own mother or female family members, or just women in general. He may not, let me just say, he may not know how to separate the good emotions from the bad emotions, or one set of the emotions could just out trump the other. So all the bad emotions could just trample on top of the good emotions, or all the good emotions could trample on top of the bad emotions. There is no happy medium with an unexpected moon. Hence why, therapy, but also these individuals need to focus on, I would say they need to be careful about trauma bonding, because remember I said there's no happy medium. There's a good, there's a bad. And the trauma bonding, or just the bonding of, those harsh emotions, could feel like home, because moon is also tied to the home as well, because it's fourth house and it's Cancer. So you have to be careful about these particular individuals. Okay. But back to what I was going to next. So let's actually talk a little bit about the number 2. Okay. And I have my cheat sheets, because I am a printable girl. That's why I have a printer, because I'm archaic like that. But I just love printing out stuff. And yet I get a little bit irritated at my child, because she has paper everywhere. And then I'm just like, oh my God, what can I say? But anyway, so with Aquarius, or the number 2, so the highlights here when it pertains to this number 2 energy, which he has, and we're focusing on the number 2 because that was the day that he was born. Let me see if I have where'd it go? Oh, it's down here. Okay. Okay, it doesn't have my little doodle like I do on my other computer. So I'll have to keep that in mind next time because I'm kind of like a chalkboard person too. So yeah, I'm just your average teacher, kind of, without, those kids because I can't deal. So the highlights here with the number 2, since that is the day that he was born and it carries a significant vibration. Sharing, a sharer, okay? A need to, I was going to say something, but we'll come back to it in a minute. Sharing, a need to relate to others through feelings and emotions. Remember, I talked about those dark feelings, especially with that moon being unexpected. Diplomacy and cooperation. So with diplomacy, which can be a good thing because it can be because of his moon also being in Aquarius, you can have someone where diplomacy, or like I talked about the House of Representatives or any sort of political enterprise, may be good for him in particular because he is removed from those emotions. So the emotions that I would have or you would have if it talks about going to war, or if it talks about issues when it pertains to immigrants or migrants or anything, or just marginalized groups, we probably are or could be emotionally attached to that because our moon probably isn't, unaspected. But with him, it can be a very out of sight, out of mind type. So kind of that motto of, I ain't see nothing, or you didn't see nothing, whenever, to me, and like again, with the moon being unexpected, and I said there's no happy medium between good and bad emotions, you also may have somebody here where threatening energy, threatening just text messages, threatening information, period, they could spew out to other people because it goes back to, like I said, you didn't see anything. Even though you know what you saw, you could very well be the victim, or you could be a part, you could be a third party witness. It doesn't matter. You saw it with your own eyes, but then that pure darkness of that unaspected moon comes into play, especially with his moon being in a Saturn rule energy. Now, Aquarius is the lighter side of Saturn, and you guys can look at that through my book of rulership on my website, where I talked about how Aquarius is the lighter side because it has a co-ruler of Uranus. And Uranus makes it lighter because Uranus is the unexpected. So you kind of can't really try to plan out life as you would like, because Uranus comes in, taps on that door, and they're just like, welcome, you have a new mission, even though you may have just started, So that's why, to me, it brings like that lighter type of energy, because things can change on a dime. You know what I'm saying? Whereas Capricorn or Aquarius also, your morals, your values can change as well because Uranus is involved. So you may be very conservative, and then you turn around and something happens, something you experience, or someone just communicates to you what their experience is, and then now your values have changed. They're in alignment in a different area. So you've moved from conservative to independent. And that's the good thing when it pertains to that Uranus Aquarius energy. You can change your viewpoint. You can change, how you grew up, the values that are instilled in you. You can change that once you get a bigger viewpoint picture of the world. So I feel like it's a very good thing. And he could be somebody like that. Who's to say? But, it still has that archetype of Saturn that we have to worry about a little bit, because Capricorn is like the more dark, okay, the more going into the abyss energy when it pertains to that Saturnian side. Capricorn doesn't have a co-ruler. It's just Saturn. There's nothing else but that. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Okay, so when Capricorn goes dark, it goes dark. So in this particular instance, with his moon not having any aspects, you have to watch out for that when it pertains to him and his motions, when it pertains to women. This also, for me, and I haven't even looked at his degree or his deacon, this also gives me the energy of someone where they may go dark for corporations, they may go dark for business. So that person where they have morals quote unquote, but all of a sudden they don't have morals whenever business is involved. Or in his instance, his morals may be out the window when it pertains to women, hopefully not children, but I don't want to take that off the place as well, because again, the moon is the womb. Okay. But also with the womb, also with women, you may have someone where there's pretty dark feelings tied to women. And this may be, again, we're going to look at the deacon and the degree. The darkness may come from a place of you may envy this particular group of people, and that could be where the darkness is coming from. Or B, there is some sort of, remember I talked about trauma bonding? There is some sort of trauma tucked inside the womb where it's immediate hate on sight. Now, it may be for a particular group of women. It may be for every woman, but you have to watch out for that. Okay, so we could also say that, him, we're just going to stick to him, to generalizing it, because I don't like to do that because everybody's different. When it pertains to Cuba, it may be an energy for him where he doesn't get along with women, even though he may want to. And yet he doesn't want to, Aquarius can also be that awkward energy as well. So that could also be trauma to him, because in his mind, it could be kind of like, I don't know why I don't love like everybody else loves. So those could be questions that he could be coming up with in his mind, trying to sort through those emotions. And remember, like I said, with it being unaspected, it's like putting emotions on a whiteboard and you're just looking at all of them and you're just like, now what the hell am I supposed to do with all these emotions? You don't know where to put any of the emotions in whatever category. They all just get mashed together, which can make this person or him a tyrant. Okay. But to continue, so we talked about the highlights of sharing, a need to relate to others. So that goes into play what I was talking about with the moon. Like I said, the diplomacy and the cooperation. But remember I said, you may have somebody here where they can go against their morals, their values. And honestly, to be quite frank, they may not really have any morals or values. And this may be a manifestation of the values or morals that were spoken to them while they were in the womb, or that they saw from their mom. So if they saw from their mom or a close family relative, woman relative that meant a lot to them, if they saw that their values were crap, then they are kind of coming into the world with that particular mindset, and it can be hard to break. He may be somebody who isolates himself a lot because, again, all his emotions are on the whiteboard, and it's just like, I just don't know. Okay. Now the challenges with the number 2 energy. So we're still on the day that he was born. The challenges here with the number 2 energy is we have somebody who can be hypersensitive, who can be very defensive, who can be very confrontational. Okay. We've already explained that. And I didn't even really go too much off of my handy dandy cheat sheet that I've made. I didn't really go into a lot of detail on that because I kind of figured that was the direction we were going in with this unaspected moon. Yeah, to me, in here, since we're just going this naked, I noticed that his Mars is still in Aquarius. However, his Mars and his moon are so far apart from one another. Okay. Like if we add 10 more degrees to this Aquarius moon at 14 degrees, that still only takes us to 24 degrees, but that orb is way too wide. I personally like 7 or below. I know other people, or I've seen other individuals be okay with 10 as far as it could being considered a conjunction, but I just think that's way too wide in my opinion. So I don't really like to count it. I like 7 and below. That's the way I see things for it to have an impact, which is why I said his moon is unaspected to me. Okay. So the lesson that he would need to soak up or take in when it pertains to this number 2 energy, as well as this moon placement, is one where he needs to learn how to be more receptive or listen. That number 2 energy, and this could possibly go for more than just him. That number 2 energy has a bad habit of not listening, hearing, yes, but you're not actively listening. You are, as I mentioned, this could be an energy where you are great, you are speeding past the details of or the emotions of someone who has been through something traumatic. You're speeding past it. You don't want to acknowledge it, or frankly, you may not even really care, but you don't want to say that out loud because that is bad. Okay. Another lesson in this is open up to what life has to offer and give more. But in this instance, the give more, especially for him, could be just in relation to women, children, the feminine. Give more to the feminine. And that can be in a bunch of different ways. Okay. It could just be as simple as emotionally. Give more support emotionally to these particular individuals, especially if he is somebody who knows what it's like to see that firsthand from other women in his life where they were giving less breadcrumbs when it comes to emotion, where they were possibly given that spiel where it's just like, well, you're a woman. We really don't care what happens to you. We really don't care what your thoughts and opinions are. He may have that firsthand experience, but he may not really be doing well to give more in his own life at this particular point. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about this unexpected moon. So I kind of gave the rundown, but these individuals can feel disconnected from their family members, especially when it pertains to women and the mother, like I was talking about before. They may have irregular, so it's given a little bit of a vampire, honestly, because remember, there's no happy medium. There's, I want to walk in the light. I'm afraid of the dark, or I love the dark and I hate the light. Hence why I say it can be very vampire-ish, because vampires pretty much only feed at night whenever they, are able to be awake. In the daytime when the sun is out, ain't no feeding going on because I'm not trying to be burned to a crisp. So he may also have that vampire-ish type of vibe to him as well, because with that unexpected moon, you can go through a lot of ups and downs when it comes to your weight, fluctuation in weight, because you go through periods where you don't eat, or you go through periods where you eat too much. So it goes from beer belly to six pack. And it can go pretty quickly because we know the moon doesn't stay in one sign longer than about 2.5 days, because it has to circle the entire zodiac sign within a month, within 28 days. So it can be extreme weight loss, hopefully not eating disorders, but I'm not going to take that off of the table since there is an extreme when it comes to feeding periods. Okay. They have difficulty expressing their emotions and they have a greater tendency to want to repress them. They have a habit of immersing themselves in their inner world. It kind of reminds me of someone that may talk to themselves, maybe possibly hear voices, maybe possibly dealing with psychosis if we're talking about unexpected moon, specifically with his being in Aquarius. That, like I said, that Saturn sign is, that Saturnian energy is still coming through to battle. Because Saturn's like that. Saturn gives when you get older, because Saturn's kind of waiting to see if you are learning the lessons that you need to learn. So, if as he gets older, if his life is pretty much in the dumpster, then we know what's at play. Okay. Saturn's always going to come to collect. It doesn't matter. But anyway, so these individuals become aware of what is happening around them. They react quickly to other people's moods. But to me, and this is probably me looking at it from a lens of the moon sign that, the sign that his moon is in. But I already talked about how, Aquarius has a Uranus period. So I said it's there to where your viewpoint, your values can change after looking at, what someone has been through. But again, we can't ignore the business side, like I said, of Saturn, and that kicks in as well. So you have to be careful, because this also can be somebody where they may pull you in through that fake care dynamic, where they can say, oh my God, I'm so sorry, I can't believe that. It's getting narcissistic. I'm talking about him, okay? Like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But really, you are drawing them in to possibly, hopefully not, get taken advantage of by the business or someone who owns the business. So it can be and again, it's like, once I pass you off, I don't care. It's not my problem. That can also be something that can happen here as well. Now, again, this is a manifestation of what he felt in the womb, or what he saw early on when it comes to mom or family, women family members. Okay, so to continue this off, they can be overly sensitive, which we talked about, and can be subject to rapid or sudden mood swings. But remember, that example I just gave is a prime example. Oh my God, I'm so sorry. Oh my God, that sucks that it happened to you. But really, you're not emotionally truly connected to that. You're only connected to it because you need something out of it, or you have a job to do. Okay. But I know I've said a lot that is not so great when it comes to unexpected moon, but a big, big thing is very creative. Okay. And the creative, great actors, because I forgot, Aquarius is also actor. So in this instance, that makes sense why he is such a good actor, why he can take you there, why I was crying whenever I was watching that Men of Honor movie, because that is the best part of this particular moon, unaspected moon. You're very talented, probably talented to the point where it even blows your own mind how quickly you can get into character. Now, some people, and this can be in terms of, you may not even really need training because you can naturally do it. Now, talents are more so Mercury, but in this particular instance, when it comes to him, with that moon not making any aspects, there's the talent. It's like, you have an acting coach. The acting coach doesn't really have to work as hard as they may have to with you or me, because you come in and you own it. You just like, oh, I already know what to do. It gives the vibe of, I think there was a story where Whitney Houston recorded a song in one take and she was out of there and the song was perfect. That is the type of vibe it gives me here. Okay. So let's go take a look at the degree. So his moon is on 14 degrees Aquarius, and believe 14 degrees is actually a Taurus degree. So again, that goes into what we were talking about the extreme feeding periods between very hungry, and that's why I say eating disorder. So it's kind of interesting how I kind of was picking that up before we really got into it. But I need to go back to my favorites because I don't have it saved on my computer, because I just don't have it saved. I need to look at the degrees. Where are you? There you are. Okay, so 14 degrees. Yes, it is a Taurus degree. So let's go take a look at the 14th degree of Aquarius. So again, all these resources that I'm using, they are on my website under the astrology resources, so something like that. But yeah, anything that I use, you guys can use it as well. I am not one to really gatekeep, not really. It would take a lot for me to gatekeep something, seriously. Okay, so we're in the Aquarius category. So 14 degrees of Aquarius, we have teaching, faithfulness, overcoming difficulties, affluence. I think it's supposed to say cosmopolitan. So, but when I think of cosmopolitan, it makes me think of drinking, alcohol, stuff like that. We have affluence, which he did achieve that. We have overcoming difficulties, which I kind of talked about when it pertains to the women dealing with issues when it pertains to the womb. And let's go on over to the deacon. So same thing, we're going to go down to the deacon. So deacons just give us more detail outside of the degrees. Okay, right here, deacons give us more detail. And it's interesting that he has his moon. Again, we're just going at this naked. It's interesting that he has his moon on a degree of teaching and faithfulness, because that could very well be his mission, emotionally speaking. Okay, to teach faithfulness, to teach others how to overcome difficulties, more so the difficulties that you had to face. But this may be someone who could be very, very tight-lipped about the difficulties they faced. You know, this may be someone where they may come across in a maybe sort of like a very privileged type of energy, maybe even from younger years, especially in the 20s, because the moon to me rules the 20s. So especially during that time, you can have somebody who's very overzealous, overconfident, very privileged, even though you may have grew up the most non-privileged person ever. But the energy that you come across is like, you owe me something. And we're talking about Cuba. Okay. But let's go to the deacons. Okay, so his moon, going at this naked, would be in the second decan of Aquarius, which is ruled by Mercury. Okay, so this is somebody who can be chatty, sociable, versatile. We talked about that. Restless, spontaneous, and known for your duality. You would have to watch him, but I already talked about that period, especially with that being in the decan of knowing your duality. So it's kind of interesting how I already spoke about that, and we're just getting more details. So it's always good to get confirmation, you know? So, you have to watch out for the fakeness. Remember, like I said, this is somebody who can turn it on and be like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. But then it's almost like they hand you off or they sell you to somebody. I know that's a very extreme example, but you never know with an unexpected moon because it's moving so quickly. You don't know. It could be anything. Okay. Especially with it being in a, having a co-ruler of Aquarius because of of Uranus, because of the sign that it's in, is very, very unexpected. You may have somebody who is very, very accommodating, and then the next day they are looking at you like they're treating you like you mean nothing to them. And that may cause you to snap. They may snap, you know? So I would say also, because of the information we got, you also have to be careful about this being somebody who can be very mirroring. He's probably going to mirror more strongly than anybody. So yeah, I'm not going to get too deep into that. But anyway, so yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go over one more thing with his C, his initial C, and then we're going to call it. I could go for hours, to be honest, on this chart, even though we don't have any houses. I can go for hours on degrees and the decans. I forgot. Fixed stars. Let's see if he has a fixed star on his Aquarius moon. Where are you? It's 14, yes. He does, exact. The Wheel of Fortune. It bites from venomous creatures with the sun or Mars, which is interesting because his Mars is almost close enough for it to be a conjunction, but I wouldn't take it. And we also have this Alnir, I think that's how you say it: retiring, active, proud, watchful, kind, idealistic, devoted, a liking for astronomy. He may have psychic abilities that he may get from his mom, even though he doesn't have any aspects tied to his Pluto. He may have someone who gets flashes of insight. But those insights may be nightmares. Okay. And with it being with this dorsum fixed star being kind of like exact conjunct his moon, he may be a snake, but that kind of goes into the energy of that duality. He could, and maybe the venomous creature could be, there may be some issues when it pertains to saliva, passing of diseases, possibly. These are all possibilities. Okay, we're not saying that this is a for certain, but it gives a little bit of it. The disease kind of starts with me, but then I'm like carrying it to other people knowingly. Okay, I wouldn't say unknowingly, because this is someone who is probably very dialed in, especially with him having that other fixed star conjunct the moon, Alner, which is one of those. Because you have a liking for astronomy, you have those flashes of insight. You probably are very calculative in a spiritual aspect. Okay. And he also may be very, it kind of reminds me like of a triangle. I feel like it's not just him. There's like a triangle to me when it pertains to Cuba. There is two other people to me that he is in this triangle with when it pertains to being very deep in spiritual insight, but maybe not necessarily in the best sense. Now, who these individuals are, I don't know, but I am getting a triangle, and there's two individuals that we don't know. I have a name actually, and it's a fashion designer, but I'm not going to say it. But I'm going to probably do some more research to see if that makes sense. But I am getting a name, and it is a fashion designer. Some of you are probably going to know who I'm talking about. I'm not going to give any clues, but some of you are pretty tapped into my brain, so you'll probably know what I'm saying. Or you may give a great guess. It is a male fashion designer. It's not a woman. Okay. Letter C. So we have Mercury in 14 degrees Capricorn, and it's conjunct Sun. So, okay, so this is probably going to have to be a part 2 because I've been talking for 40 minutes. But, so we pretty much only went over his moon. And so this is probably going to have to be a part 2 because I don't have any water, and I don't know. I haven't dove deep into this new software that I'm using when it comes to my computer. So I'm really going to have to check and see how to pause. And, you know, I figured out that my microphone thingamajigger is down here. So there's just a lot of stuff. Okay, I'm trying to make sure. So there's just a lot of stuff I'm going to have to dive into more when it pertains to this. Okay, maybe we'll look at, I take myself back. Maybe we'll look at the 14 degrees of Capricorn. Anyway, suicide, kind, favors, gentle. But I think that just goes into, I wonder if his father may have unfortunately did that, or he himself. Remember, he's in that space with that moon where almost anything can go in terms of the extreme moods. So I would hope that that would not be the case. But to me, Cuba gives me that vibe of somebody who has seen death, probably literally, maybe. So that energy of, you know, unaliving oneself, it screams to me somebody where they're just really trying to keep themselves alive. And that may be where that triangle is coming from, because the people in the triangle, they may be keeping him alive in good ways or in negative ways, but it does give me that particular energy. And it's a shame because you may have someone like the degree says who can be very kind, very gentle, very favorable. However, that mirror is taking over from that moon. So if you're in the presence of bad people, your energy has all of a sudden become that. And that's unfortunate because this can be somebody who can be incredibly bright and probably very soft, but this started from the early age. So how you move, the people that he would move with would pretty much be his energetic footprint, even though they don't have to be. But the willpower, the strength, the ego that would normally come over and take over and be like, nah, F this. Who you talking to? I will kick your, you know, if you do something stupid like that again. Not him. It's like he I hate to say it, it's like he's a puppet. You know, and again, we haven't really dove super deep into the conjunction of Mercury, more about the details or anything like that. And that's why I said this will probably be a part 2. But I just wanted to come on here and kind of welcome myself back and welcome you guys to the channel for my chart breakdowns. You know, I I really do like doing these because I just learned something new pretty much about the unaspected moon. Just me talking to you guys through it. So it's very interesting to see this. And so of course you're going to like it because why would you not? I mean, this is teaching at its finest and it's something I'm good at. But yeah, so thank you for sticking around. Of course, like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel. And yeah, I will see you guys on, I'm going to say, yeah, I'm not going to say, I will see you guys later. Bye.